Hello, everybody. Welcome to your Full Gear review with Jon, Pollock and Wai Ting. The post show has begun. Wai, how are you?
I think I'm doing a lot better. At least my voice is.
You sound much better.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for giving me yesterday off. Thank you so much to Neil again for stepping in. Thought you guys did a great job on Rewind to SmackDown. Appreciate it.
How did we handle all the technical side, the uploading, all the other stuff that you have to do that comes
Very
with the
good.
territory? You leave a lot when your absence is felt, Wai.
You did a great job as always.
Well, that's what I'm here for. We're glad that you're feeling better, rested, and we've got a 5.5 hour show to discuss to get you back into the swing of things.
I'll see how my voice is by the end of this podcast.
We'll see. No promises. Wai and I might be bleeding by the end of this show. Tonight was a bunch of bloodbaths. Before we get into tonight's pay-per-view rundown, we do want to make a bit of an in-house note that our friends at Chop Tees are going to be closing down the shop coming up this Tuesday. So it is the last couple of days of Chop Tees, which has been the home for all of our post-wrestling merchandise for a number of years. So a big thank you to them. They were able to help us get a lot of our merchandise out to you, but it is the end of an era this coming Tuesday.
And when we say them, I think we really just mean one person. That's,
it's I'm saying
sticky.
the theoretical they, but yeah, it's one guy as he goes around on horseback manufacturing our merchandise.
Yes, one Dickie Bird who, we haven't really been hearing from so much in our community these days, and it's completely understandable seeing how he has a farm to run, of course, and also he has two very young children. So unfortunately, I personally know how much it takes to run one of these things, and it's just not really possible for him at the moment, coupled with just like rising costs in production and all that. So I don't know where we'll have a merch store. I don't know if we'll have a merch store soon. So if you ever had your eye on any of this stuff at chop-tees.com/postwrestling, or really like for any of the Chop Tees stores, please do so like today, because it's probably your last chance, because I don't know when we'd be able to.
We're
pop all
burning
this back up.
everything that's remaining. Okay, it's going to go into Wai's trunk, and that's where it's going to be sold. Okay, you're going to have to find him, and he'll sell it out of the back of his car. That's where our merchandise is going to be.
I mean, it's almost all print on demand, so it's there's not, like, as far as I know, not really any inventory.
This was tough stuff to get. I couldn't even get stuff. It was very very tough.
Did you ask? I asked you multiple times. You never replied to me. So
I mean, I never wanted to impose. So
anyway, chop-tees.com/postwrestling. We probably won't mention it that much beyond this anymore.
Well, big thank you to Dickie Bird doing tremendous work and helping us out significantly over the last number of years. Tonight we have a Full Gear to discuss, so we're going to dive into things. The final number from WrestleTix listed the show distributing 10,229 tickets. That's almost a wash with last year that had a comparable number of 10,639. I tuned in. I should be aware of this by this point, but this is since the introduction of the Tailgate Brawl, this dual pre-shows just throws me for a loop, because I log into YouTube to go watch this, and I'm realizing, wait a minute, this is the separate pre-show, and this is the non-wrestling pre-show. I understand why they have to do these dual feeds, but it just throws me. So then I moved over to Triller, and then I was just ready to lose my mind on this Tailgate Brawl, because my feed crashed every single time I tried to watch this four-way tag, to the point that I just said, F it, I'm skipping this four-way tag. And then I was looking in the chat, and clearly this was not a me issue, it was a they issue. Mm-hmm. And once I got live, then it stopped crashing. So I was not going to be rewinding. I was not starting right at 7. So I did skim through this tag later, so I can at least give some notes here, but it just seemed like they were having a ton of technical issues on the pre-show, at least on Triller.
On Triller, which is, I mean, for international audiences, and I suppose people who wisely use a VPN to watch their shows, but for most people watching this on HBO Max or TNT in the US, probably not that big of an issue. Still, it's something to discuss, because there are a lot of people that do watch on Triller, including myself. Like, I tried to tune into this, and it was like in progress of the tag team match. I was like 7 minutes into the program. It was very strange.
It would go like 30 seconds and it would crash. I would then reset it and it's live. I'd rewind it to where and find my old spot. Goes another 30 seconds and crashed. I went through this like 6 times and then finally just gave up on this. But we had the Outrunners, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, Juice Robinson and Austin Gunn, and Big Bill and Brian Keith battling for $200,000. A lot of prize money at stake on tonight's card. And Dalton Castle is out with the Outrunners, so he's on commentary. The crowd is chanting for Max Caster. Juice Robinson has gone full mullet. And the story of the match is that Caster and Bowen start kind of rekindling their tag team chemistry, and they start working together. We get the mic drop, but then Big Bill returns, boots Caster out of the ring, and Bowens is looking for his partner, and Juice sneaks from behind him, rolling him up in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So Juice and Austin Gunn get the $200,000, and Bowens is yelling at Caster, "Where were you?" So it is the idea that these two are stronger together than apart, but they still hate each other. And how will they get along? Can they get along is the question. And that was the focus of the match. And then we had other bodies to populate the pre-show.
Like, really just seemed like a match that existed just to, focus on that Bowens and Caster story, which at this point is not that interesting to me either way. Like, I could really care less whether or not they do join up, or if this is all a way to swerve us and have Bowens actually attack Caster. It's just like, and I also sense very mild interest from the audience, quite frankly, when I'm watching this. Like, in the grand scheme of things within this company to care about, this is still very low on the list, which makes it, I guess, fine and perfectly acceptable for a Tailgate Brawl. But I think the biggest news coming out of this is that I'm very happy that Austin Gunn gets a pension now.
He gets the pension and perhaps some
index funds, perhaps.
Maybe some GICs that they'll be going into. I think they should go this route with them. Boom and Doom teaming up, Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall against Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta with Paul White on commentary. He is here to observe the progress of Big Boom AJ. Of course, we've got Big Justice and the Rizzler for their annual match in AEW here in Newark. So Rocky confronts Big Justice and the Rizzler, and Trent then shoves Big Justice to the floor. That's actually got a lot of heat, and Paul White stands up to him. Big Boom gets the tag, so he makes his comeback. Callis gets on the apron to distract. There's a strong zero onto AJ, but QT comes off the top with an elbow. And then after Rocky Romero gets a piece of Trent Beretta's cast, Big Justice comes in and gives the Diamond Cutter to Rocky Romero, the Diamond Cutter that has been taught to Big Justice. And then he high-fives Paul White. Trent gets KO'd by White, and we get a Doomsday Powerbomb as Big Boom AJ pins Trent in 11 minutes and 57 seconds. It was the match you would imagine that these four would have. And, I mean, the audience did get into some of the Big Justice stuff, and for whatever value you would assign that a Big Boom AJ still brings to these pre-shows. Like, if this sells any tickets, I can't really tell you. It was on the pre-show and got a decent reaction, and that was about as much as I can say about it.
So I do feel like we do have a bit of a caveat in being able to say that, like, we're not the target audience. Like, as far as I know, John, I don't think you ever caught onto the TikTok craze with these guys. Like, neither of us ever heard of these guys until they started popping up in AEW. So, but even if you are, how much of this is still resonating with you? Like,
well, that's what I've said. It's just, I think the first time they did this, like, there was a certain novelty to it, and you always wanted to be trying things. They do this every year in Newark. It's on the pre-show. This got no television build-up, so it's not like you were even really promoting this to your AEW audience.
No, they did the whole thing at the bar, the last pre-show. You remember?
Yes, and nothing on AEW television in the 4 weeks since we got the bar fight. So if that, I can't tell you, like, if 500 people bought tickets because of Big Boom AJ, great. But I can't break down like where this is. It's a pre-show match. I look at it as kind of nondescript, but these guys got a better reaction than some on this show.
It was also like the second match on the show, which I think made a big difference as well. Like,
sure,
if these guys were on towards the fourth hour, I think it'd be a big difference.
Second from the top.
But like, I do feel like it's a dwindling, reaction that you're just wearing out every time you see these guys. I mean, the novelty of finding out whether or not this AJ guy can wrestle I mean, it's not really there anymore. The way that it's not really there for Logan Paul even.
Well, now Big Justice is going to start wrestling. They're going to hand this down.
They're waiting till he gets up.
They're going to do this until Full Gear 2040.
So for me, like as somebody who never caught onto that craze in the first place on TikTok, like you're just left with a very average match that you'd see on like an indie show, you know. But we will have ratings for this, so we'll see if
that's true. We will see how this does. The quarter might save them. Marvez is with members of the Don Callis family, specifically Callis, Josh Alexander, and the not affiliated Young Bucks. They're not worried about the loss by Trent and Romero. They're like number 13 and 14 in this group. They're not too concerned. They expect that the Bucks will join the group tonight, and they have a debt to pay to Don Callis for all he's invested in them. And Josh Alexander warns Omega, I took out the leg of Ibushi, I took out the leg of Michael Nakazawa, and you are next, Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
So Ibushi was one thing, but Michael Nakazawa, that's crossing the line, and now you have made Kenny angry. And Marvez explains that Okada is not here yet. Uh-oh. Did AEW PR try to get this one out there? Did he miss his call time? Is he not going to show up?
Signing, probably.
He actually showed up in the exact same way Mike Santana did last week at Turning Point as well,
sure.
like
In
verbatim.
McLaren.
But he didn't miss any meet and greet to get this over. Do you think this was real? So they give one final gift to the Young Bucks as a gift that they can go try on. Samoa Joe cut a promo surrounded by the Ops Dojo. And he will walk into the main event with an army behind him. Ominous words for the big angle at the end of the night. Hook and Eddie Kingston against the Workhorsemen. Really good response for Eddie Kingston, who remains much more over than his slotting in these cards. No entrance for JD Drake or Anthony Hendry, but we got to get going. Kingston is wearing a Homicide shirt. Kingston tags in, Big Pop, DDT's Henry. Hook holds off JD Drake with Red Rum, and Kingston gets the pin in a minute 49. I can't even say a TV match. This was shorter than most TV matches, and it was just quick pop, Eddie Kingston in there, and Hook would obviously play a much bigger factor later in the show, and it remains to be seen what that entails for Eddie Kingston coming out of the angle we will get to later.
I mean, most likely a feud here. But yeah, just a squash win just to get Eddie and Hook, like two New York guys on the New York area show. And that was it.
Mystico, Neon, and Mascara Dorada, the Sky Team, defending the CMLL World Trios Championships against Konosuke Takeshita, Hechicero, and who else? Where's Kazuchika Okada? It's 3-on-2 as we begin, and it is CMLL rules, meaning no tags are necessary, and there's a 20 count on the floor. So we start off in a handicap situation. So Hechicero, being a resourceful tag team partner, evens things out by taking out Mystico's arm and appearing to break the arm. This would be one of 3 arm injuries on this show where people would have to fight back with one arm. That was the limb of choice on this particular show. The bell rings as Mystico is being taken to the back, so we have a 2-on-2 scenario until the time is ticking down on the pre-show and Okada pulls up, because this dude doesn't work pre-shows. That's what I learned from this. This guy ain't working for free on cable. I'm a pay-per-view entity. So how did you feel this work compared? Like, you and I seem to be fans of this gimmick that they did last month.
Most people did. I would
yeah.
say.
So this time around, they tried it a second month in a row, and I think they tried it even more so. Not necessarily like you had the hot match and you had the tease of Okada on his way to the ring as they went to the pay-per-view. I don't want to see them do it every single month, but I think like they're obviously trying, and I would take this to mean that they felt like last month was a success.
Again, I felt it was pretty unanimous. Like, I don't think it was even any debate. Maybe
there's nothing unanimous that AEW does. Like,
true. Some grifters were probably complaining, I don't know what was going on. I just tuned in, and okay, whatever. But to me, from my sense, I thought it was almost like unanimously praised. Like you, so this week, it was successful again in getting the crowd to stand up, like, just kind of hearing the theme music and the pyro to set things off in the middle of a match, like does something to somebody, right? But I found the reaction to be less than the last time, maybe because there's not as much novelty there. And for that reason, I wouldn't like to see them do it every week. Oh, sorry, every month, certainly. I'd like to see them just maybe twice, 3 times a year, maybe at most.
I would only do it selectively. And you had the novelty of last month of, man, are they going to squeeze this match in this time around? When you saw how much time was left, I mean, it was very clear you were not getting a 3-minute match involving these 6. So that takes us into the pay-per-view, and they kind of do like the big intro in the arena as the match is going on. And Okada, this guy gets out of his car. His robe is just laying there that he puts on, and he takes forever to get to the ring. He comes out, he's posing, he's stopping for his pyro, and then eventually he makes his way into the ring, eyeing Takeshita, who just looks like, where the fuck has this guy been? And it sets up a roll-up from Dorada as Takeshita is watching Okada. Hechicero is in charge of being peacemaker, and Okada offers his hand, but then middle finger to Takeshita. So Mystico returns at this point with his arm taped up. So we are back to a trios match, and we continue on here. Neon gets caught with the bastard driver and a wheelbarrow by Takeshita. Okada nearly catches Takeshita with a rainmaker, and then moments later they do the full miscommunication where he hits Takeshita with the rainmaker, and Okada just smiles at this collateral damage that is Takeshita. Hechicero presses Dorada in the air, and Dorada does a backflip in midair, comes down into a Rana. That spot looked fantastic. And they hit dual moonsaults to the floor, Poison Rana and La Mystica onto Hechicero as Mystico with one arm submits Hechicero in 13:44. Okada's just seated on the ramp. He's apologizing. I'm so sorry. And Takeshita is just so done with this guy. I continue to really enjoy just the interplay between Takeshita and Okada, who it's just Okada especially. He's so good at this.
I think he's so much fun to watch. I thought it was a great match and a great introduction to El Sky Team on AEW. All 3 looked amazing. So, in AEW where you actually have a number of trios, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more mixing and matching of Sky Team with, other AEW trios. I mean, I think the Okada Takeshita stuff was pretty well done because it was pretty much most of the intent of this match. I thought they were careful to keep Takeshita somewhat unaware that Okada was being blatant with the attacks. Like there was one moment where Okada broke up a cover and then kept pounding on Takeshita even after the opponent went away. And initially I thought, oh, he's like attacking him. Like, shouldn't Takeshita know this? But like it was Takeshita looking down. So thinking that the opponent was attacking him rather than Okada himself. Now, I think that was fine, but like they need to be a little bit careful because having Takeshita be so unaware, I think almost makes him look stupid rather than sympathetic. So it's definitely bordering on that for me. I feel like this needs to happen soon,
Well, we will get into it, but essentially both will be in the Continental Classic. I'm assuming they're going to be in opposite blocks. That would be my thought, and that's right. The tease. Like, if we're getting this match, it will only happen at World's End. Yeah. Should be interesting, because that would just be a week before Wrestle Kingdom as well when both go over there. Pac and Darby Allin in the I Bet You Can't Just Wrestle Me match that Pac laid out. We go to a very special video where we have not seen Darby since Blood and Guts, where he was put through the flaming table, and he is reporting to us from the burn unit, where he is covered like a Victoria Principal after the car wreck in 1987. And face is covered. Yeah, he looks like a mummy as he's watching footage of the best of the Death Riders destroying Darby. And he rises from the bed, smashes the TV with his bat, and then enters the arena where his face is hidden and then reveals it. And all I can say is that whatever plastic surgeon got their hands on Darby made a tremendous recovery for Darby, because his face looked pristine.
So at this point, like I kind of take these like Darby Allin intro videos to be like something that might be of like a dream sequence that we're somehow tapped into, or just like something so symbolic that we're not necessarily supposed to take it literally. But okay. Yeah, I did feel that disconnect here too. Like why was your face bandaged and you just show up and you're as good looking as ever, Darby Allin, Again, I mean, he's just an art school kid who likes making interesting videos and like, come on, what hospital actually has a 4x3 TV these days? All right, that was definitely a dream sequence.
Wow. What would your how many health providers cover broken television sets in the hospital.
He probably would have to pay for it himself in the U.S. Are you kidding me?
That could be, six figures.
Yeah.
They do cite Darby's amateur wrestling background. And what I liked about the first half of this match was that this was an interesting test to do with Darby that, I don't want to say the guy has pigeonholed himself, but there is now, like, I think even more so now, this expectation that every big Darby singles match is going to be just a spectacle beyond belief. So if there are people that feel he relies too much on that, well, he did wrestling for the first half of this match. If you feel it's all stunts, the second half of the match was all him just selling and selling and selling. And then by the end of the match, that's when you kind of merged everything together and gave you kind of the Darby spectacle and tried to mix it in. And I thought by the end of this all, I really enjoyed this match that they had, and he had a great opponent here in Pac. But it was certainly something different to do with Darby. Mm-hmm. And Pac just kind of dominates him at the beginning. Well, I should say Darby was the one that's out wrestling Pac, who then gets frustrated, and it turns around when Pac takes over and he lifts him for a military press, and suddenly the crowd just comes unglued because they think this guy is going to throw him onto the desk like Claudio has. Instead, he just drops him on the floor.
Which is even worse.
It is worse.
Yeah.
And just a thud.
Especially it's worse because he has a second-degree burn on his back. I mean, that would have been a big spot either way, but I think the main majority of the reaction came from the fact that, he dropped him from like a 10 feet, onto a burnt back, a second-degree burnt back. Oh, my God.
Well, if that doesn't come through the screen, the pain, while Pac removes the arm bandage and starts twisting on the blisters from the burns.
He's giving him a nice arm tea massage.
Yes. I remember in school, they called this what I'm pretty sure is a pretty offensive term.
You have to say it now.
Oh man,
okay, no, you don't have to.
I'll tell you off there. It's
oh boy,
it's definitely offensive.
That's got to be really bad.
So Darby is tossed through the corner and crashes to the floor. The crowd chants, "You can't kill him!" And Darby catches him in the ring skirt and then comes back with a tope suicida and a missile drop kick to the floor. With Pac seated on a chair, and Darby, there's no good way to land off a missile drop kick to a man that's seated on the floor.
It does way more damage to the person delivering the move. It? Pac has a nice seat to sit down on. Yes, he falls down, but it's kind of like, who hasn't fallen while teetering on one of those chairs?
This show was a perfect example of the difference. Like, Nigel is there to he's going to get his humor involved and he's going to get over the seriousness of the match. But Bryan Danielson is genuinely petrified of these people killing each other. And he is so horrified at some of the things that he is saying. You can hear the concern in his voice. I don't think he's that great of an actor, but if he had been calling this,
funny because he would be doing some of these things.
He would totally be the guy doing this. But now that he's watching this, when he heard him calling Mark Briscoe's match, he's just he
gets into dad
mode. Man, I know what concussions are like. So Darby fights back. He's caught in the brutalizer. He gets out. Both men are down. Nigel just notes to us that Pac has had a metal plate inserted in his foot, and this is now his new secret weapon that he uses. He then goes to the top.
He says that's the rumor, okay? It's not been confirmed. We haven't seen the x-rays yet.
Well, Tony then followed and just said it as fact that he's got the metal plate to worry about. What a weird rumor to go around if that's not true. How does a rumor like that even start? So then I believe the first time he has gone for the Black Arrow since his return recently, he misses the Black Arrow and gets caught in the Scorpion Deathlock. Crowd goes wild for this. And then Pac waves for Wheeler Yuta to show up and interfere. So the move gets broken, and behind the ref's back, Pac uses Darby's own bat and pins him in 16 minutes and 57 seconds.
The Sting bat, yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was a pretty solid match. The ending it just kind of felt like a way for us to get out of this match. I wasn't crazy about the finish here. This guy's just knocked off Moxley, and I mean, I don't know. I think they could have gotten to the finish, even if Pac is winning, in a bit more of a, stronger way than the way in which they did it. It just felt like a just a bit of a cop-out way to get to this heel win.
It was certainly a very average and not a very creative match, especially by like Darby Allin standards, But I do feel like this is the first in a series for these two, and it being like the first official match on the show, I don't necessarily fault them for not throwing everything into like the near falls here, because other matches would go on to do some of that later on. So I got the sense that this continues, and if this is only meant to be like a first chapter, then I can maybe accept maybe the not the most creative finish. I thought it was an overall very good match, as expected. Like, they were able to turn a regular match into something that gave you like some of the reactions that you would have for a death match because of the suggestion of the second degree burns for Darby Allin. So, really, like, even a move like ring the arm, or like whatever offensive name that you're going to tell me off air, John, that he did. That got a massive reaction in front of the crowd, which I thought was awesome. And of course, as expected, like Darby Allin, as just a normal wrestler without any gimmicks, like, he's awesome. He blended really well with Pac over there, working that particular style. Are you going to text me the very offensive name right now?
Okay. You're not going to read this, but you're just going to tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how offensive that term was. Where you would take the kid's arm and you would stretch it in opposite directions with your hands.
Okay. So I'm guessing it's named after like a toy, right?
I don't know what it's named after.
Okay.
This is just what it was called at the time.
Is it offensive?
Are you familiar with this term?
No, not at all.
You're not? Okay.
I'm not. Is it offensive? I suppose I could say so. Am I personally offended?
Okay.
No.
Then Wai can give it a credence then.
But I don't want you saying it. I don't want you.
Okay. I can't say it. It'll be taken out of context or used in AI of some sort. So, so there you go. Pac gets the win to start things over. And unlike Darby, when it comes to your VPN experience, folks, you don't want to get burned. And that's why we have the product for you.
Support for this podcast comes from NordVPN. It's gotten really expensive to be a wrestling fan. So it's no surprise that VPNs have basically become an essential tool if you're watching wrestling week in and week out. I'm lucky. I live in a territory where I get full access to WWE programming and premium live events on one streaming service for one fee. But let's say I travel to the US for a month. You really think I'm going to juggle a bunch of different services just to keep up with Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and PLEs? Instead, I just boot up my NordVPN, set my location back to Canada, turn on my streaming service, and I'm good to go. I even have the NordVPN app installed right on my Apple TV. A couple clicks with my remote, no wires, no technical knowledge. Done. So go to nordvpn.com/postwrestling, sign up for a 2-year plan, and you get 4 extra months for free with the 30-day money-back guarantee. nordvpn.com/postwrestling. Stay safe, save money, and take control of your internet with Nord. All right.
You just hook me in. I'm so ready to sign up. You are so convincing.
Man, I watched that and I'm just like, why did I shave? Like, I feel like my beard's was too long, and or I should have went like number 6. And anyway, that's all I think about.
I know everyone. The term that comes to mind when everyone hears your wonderful voice.
Squeezed right now, right?
What?
I don't know. I just randomly. I don't always know what the line is that I'm hitting here. That one could have been a bit better. Anyway, nordvpn.com/postwrestling. It's the only way you can survive in this pro wrestling climate. Timeless Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa taking on the Sisters of Sin, the Babes of Wrath, and Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. So the winning team will get to choose a stipulation for their semifinal match in the women's tag title tournament. So I looked at this lineup, and it was only a question to me of whether it would be Mina Shirakawa or Harley Cameron that would take the fall. And I think everyone probably realized that the answer was Harley Cameron. But the role in which we got to there was, first of all, I thought Willow was pretty popular to this crowd. Whenever she got involved, I thought the crowd really picked up, and that went doubly so for Toni Storm, who was largely on the apron for most of the match. And when she got tagged, this place went wild, and then she was involved for the closing sequence with Harley Cameron. But we saw some double teaming maneuvers by Bayne and Shafir, including Bayne F5ing Mina onto Shafir into Mother's Milk. Bayne then holds on to Storm, and Mina's like fighting this, and the audience is really picking up on this. And
this was repeating the spot from Blood and Guts, the finish.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. they did the mother's milk spot on Wednesday, and it was just such a quick tap that it was like, I almost feel this should be one submission that you're just like flailing away in. Like this should be like just you're done. But they do make the save, and the crowd did react pretty big that Mina survived mother's milk. And then Bayne hits the double set of Germans to the Sisters of Sin. She gets pounced and sent out of the ring, and Willow follows that with a cannonball off the apron. Storm and Harley are left in the ring. They do kind of like the fish out of water spots, trading back covers and kickouts. And then the big package is applied by Toni Storm. 13 minutes and 9 seconds as she pins Harley Cameron, and they will get to choose the stipulation. So not going the direction I thought this would. I figured this was setting up some big hardcore match with the Sisters of Sin with Willow and Harley, but that will apparently just be a straight up match, and we'll get the stipulation for Storm and Mina against Bayne and Shafir.
Yeah, I don't remember who suggested it, but I think I heard somebody suggest that it was likely something that might prevent either Marina or Megan Bayne to be pinned in the match. Possibly that's only speculation, but I could see that being one of the reasons. So overall, I thought like this 4-way tag served as like a good preview of the remaining matches. I thought like Bayne and Shafir continued to look pretty strong, more dominant in this situation than even I felt on Wednesday. It didn't do much to elevate the interest that I had in Willow and Cameron versus the Sisters of Sin. That match really does kind of feel like it's being left out here because so much of the attention is on Bayne and Shafir versus Storm and Shirakawa. But Willow did get a tremendous reaction, and I thought that accounted for something here. As a match itself, I found it pretty average, and honestly, this felt a bit more worthy of a Dynamite or Collision than the high standard of an AEW pay-per-view.
Of the pay-per-view matches, this was near the low end of the show, I thought. Some decent reactions, but again, it was throwing a lot in there, and I would say the best build that they have done was still from Blood and Guts with that finish, and I just feel with the gap of time between Blood and Guts and before they get to the semifinal, if it's just sort of, people move on so quickly that they don't really capitalize when you have like something really heated that you did for Blood and Guts. They did announce that the Sisters of Sin will face the Babes of Wrath this Wednesday on Dynamite in Nashville. Brodido against FTR for the AEW tag titles. They did a belly-inspired intro with Big Stoke as he walked. I cannot lay claim to having watched this movie. Did you get to see DMX and Nas team up in this?
I think I've always intended to. I don't think I ever fully sat down to get through it. And at this point, 30 years later, I'm very unlikely to.
Well, it's got a strong 23% on Rotten Tomatoes. If that twists your arm to, I'm not trying to play off the Darby pack spot. It is, I'm sure.
Everybody in the chat is trying to figure out what it is because they can't figure it out. They thought it was one other offensive slur, and I had to correct them. It was not. Okay. Apparently, multiple offensive slurs can be attached to this.
I'm a big fan of teasing something and then not telling the audience. I think that's a lot of fun. So I found there was the opening couple of minutes of this match. I thought there was some stuff that was just really off between them. There was some miscommunication stuff. Bandito tried to lift both for a flapjack and nearly lost both of them. But then this match just got cooking, and they ended up going in excess of 20 minutes, and this turned into one of the stronger matches on the entire card. They tried the power and glory spot onto Brody, but he catches Cash by the throat as he's coming off for the splash, and then Bandito follows with a frog splash. Stokely saves Dax as Brody dives to the floor. He barely connects with Stokely, but this killed Stokely. He was out for the rest of the match.
It killed
Brody was I didn't know how this man survived this because he just free fell through the ropes and just crashed to the floor. There was no catching. There was no target hit. He just was a 340-pound man going in midair and crashing.
Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional, but it really played well into the rest of the match because he was supposed to be dead for quite a while after this.
We saw a shatter machine attempt into a slingshot powerbomb, and Cash dives for a near fall on Bandito. Then we see Bandito with the one-armed military press that sends Cash to the floor. Bandito really shined in this. They do a shatter machine, but Bandito counters it into a DDT, then tries for the 21-plex. It gets stopped. Cash gets one of the tag belts, and he's in a tug of war with Brody, and then it nails Bandito in the head, but he kicks out, and the crowd goes wild. They got the crowd on several of these near falls, and they just kept like the reactions just got bigger. And that tells you, like, for people that complain about too many near falls, when the audience is getting louder and louder, then it's working, and it worked here. Cash crotches Bandito on the post, and then that's to stop the monkey flip 450. And we see a doomsday device onto Bandito turned into the moonsault fallaway slam, which Cash kicks out of. That spot was amazing. Wild. Mm-hmm. Brody is taken out for good with a spike pile driver on the edge, and then they hit one to Bandito. I think everyone thought it was over, and he still kicks out. And then Bandito, in his final breath, gives them the middle fingers, and he is hit with a shatter machine and stays down. In 20 minutes and 11 seconds, FTR become 3-time tag team champions. This was right below my match of the show. I thought this was outstanding. And certainly by this point of the show, I thought this was ahead of anything else that had preceded it.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I thought it was magnificent. I think FTR are just so great at filtering any of their opponents' like styles into the framework of like a classic wrestling match. No matter how flippy or just like, maybe aerial or spectacular their opponents are, FTR is able to translate it into a match that feels very traditional and classic. And I thought they were just great at cutting Bandito off. But the magic of the match certainly begins with the near falls, as you kind of alluded to. Some of these sequences were just amazing in terms of speed, creativity, execution. I thought they, like that Brody tope, that whether or not it was supposed to miss Stokely, I mean, it responded with... It resulted in a fantastic 2-on-1 from FTR to Bandito that Brody eventually broke up. That tug of war leading to the belt shot to set up another great near fall. And then that doomsday device that Bandito reversed into a moonsault suplex was just really incredible. A lot of these were intricate sequences, but they're executed like so fast and just so... clean for the most part that like I just you marvel at it. I thought the match was awesome, and like if they wanted a very great match to end this Brodido run, they certainly achieved that.
Do you see either of Brody or Bandito, both of them, in the Continental Classic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, still a lot of life in the tag team, of course, but kind of ready to see both of them like perform as stellar singles. But now, do you see either of them winning? It's possible.
Probably not winning, but I certainly think this would elevate the tournament, especially have Bandito in there. Like ROH champion or not, I think he could be a great addition into this whole thing.
Yeah.
As well over the next month. The Casino Gauntlet followed this match. This is when Nigel is shifted out and Bryan Danielson comes in for, well, the lion's share of the pay-per-view, because little did we know there was hours to go on this show at this point. So the Casino Gauntlet for the inaugural AEW National Champion to be crowned. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin start this match. And we got, 30 seconds of these two doing some basic wrestling together. And that was about it.
If there was any drama of like them fighting each other, there was absolutely none. They were just there for 30 seconds, and then they teamed up again.
The countdown began 30 seconds in, and it's Ricochet who says, "No one paid to see this wrestling crap. We came to see you throw hands." And with that, GOA run into the ring, attacking Lashley and Benjamin. Lashley is thrown into the steps. Benjamin gets dropped on a chair, and this was probably the most dangerous set of steps and chair in the Prudential Center, because these two men, I am not exaggerating, they were laid out for 15 minutes before they came back to life at the end of this match. 15 minutes. They just laid there on the floor. I have never seen these guys sell for 15 seconds to this level, and there for 15 minutes they were out.
Well, all the people who complain that they don't sell enough, well, there you have it.
They just put all of their year-long selling into one night, and that's what we got here. So Ricochet is left in the ring, does a spin-a-rooney, and Ricochet takes out MVP. So I look forward to their next big blow-off match. And then let's add an award for the year-end. Best blow-off match involving the Hurt Syndicate and Ricochet and GOA, because we have about 7 candidates for their blow-off match, and we're obviously getting at least another one. Maybe 4.
That might be an annual category.
They should just wrestle every pay-per-view through the next year. How about they will have their own division? That's the national division.
Yes.
Claudio is in 4th, and so the crowd is singing "We Bald People." Haha. Then Daniel Garcia enters, so we've got multiple members of the Death Riders outnumbering.
And chance of he's not bald.
He's not bald, yes. Clever. Orange Cassidy was 6th, then Wheeler Yuta, so we've got 3 members of the Death Riders in. And this part, I just note, Lashley and Shelton are still laid out, and they would be laid out for a long time. Kevin Knight enters, Roderick Strong enters, Mark Davis enters. I don't know about you, Way, but part of me was thinking none of these people are winning this title. And then there was a shift where I was like, no, I just understand where this championship is going to be. And maybe any of these guys could have won this thing.
I guess I wasn't even so much thinking about like winners and losers at this point.
Well, Mark Davis came in his like 20 seconds to shine on this pay-per-view. He hit like a destination hellhole to Ricochet and then yanked Orange Cassidy up into the air for that pile driver in midair, which looked great. And that was Mark Davis's night. He used his minutes to the best of his ability. Yep. Speedball was in 11th and is followed by Speedball comes in, and first he works with Kevin Knight, and then they squared off, and they did more squaring off than Lashley and Benjamin did, to say the least. Matt Menard is 12th, and of course, Daniel Garcia is stunned by this, and Matt Menard, this was his big moment of the year to enter and brawl with Daniel Garcia into the crowd. Then, as I said, after 15 minutes, Lashley and Shelton are alive, and they return to the ring, and they fight Claudio and Mark Davis, and then they are delivering Germans and spears. They're making up for lost time. They're alone with Ricochet. Orange comes back with orange punches. Lashley then misses a spear to Claudio and runs into the barricade. Yuta cuts off an orange punch with a Basaiku knee, and Kevin Knight breaks up the cover, hits the UFO splash to Yuta, but after hitting it, gets nailed with the spirit gun, and Ricochet pins Kevin Knight in 22 minutes and 54 seconds, becoming the national champion. And by the end of this, I did not think this was one of the better casino gauntlets that they have done, and maybe a year from now, I will sit here after Full Gear 2026 and say, you know what, the national title, it's actually crafted a pretty great identity for itself. It's done all this cool stuff, but they have not done that yet, and to me, this title just felt totally superfluous by the end of this match. It had no stakes attached to it for me, so sure.
It was just born today, John. You know, like I feel like we can give it at least, you know, a month or two before we determine that. But I as a match itself, I thought it was an overall entertaining casino gauntlet. I mean, I thought the match was structured well to give almost every participant some sort of memorable showcase, whether it be the Death Riders. Like every time that music hit, that Death Riders music hit, and that crowd reaction, I thought that was fun. Garcia and Daddy Magic, they hopefully are finally building to some sort of payoff with their thing. Jet Speed got some good little interaction between the two of them. Even Mark Davis, as you mentioned, I thought made the most out of his spotlight here. But I thought Ricochet, like playing the chicken shit heel, was a lot of fun throughout the match. And I love the spot of him joining the Death Riders for those forever clotheslines and just getting beaten up at the end of it. I am quite tired of this Hurt Syndicate feud, and I sense they're going to do the singles matches.
I mean, Lashley just ran through this guy on Wednesday, and then they did the whole angle tonight. Like, we're getting plenty of this feud to come.
At least maybe singles matches might sort of like change things up. You know, you're getting, although I'm sure you've had singles matches even prior. But anyway, Claudio was great. Kevin Knight I thought was great. I thought the only thing that was really missing was like a surprise or two to really kind of lift this one up. You know, like these sort of matches have kind of been known to introduce.
Then we go to the no-holds-barred match with Jon Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. Danielson was awesome in this match because he explained how the origin of no-holds-barred matches and that holds that would not typically be legal in combat are in this type of match, and then he would lose his mind when there was fish hooking in this match. Like, this was totally up the alley of a Jon Moxley, and there is nobody that has married like mixed martial arts style wrestling with pro wrestling better than Kyle O'Reilly, in my opinion. Like, there have been some awful attempts to unionize the two, but Kyle O'Reilly was just in his wheelhouse here, and he also found his new positive, which is bleeding, which we would find out later. Danielson would explain this later in the show, that Kyle O'Reilly does these breathing exercises, and therefore the blood loss doesn't affect his cardio. So this guy could just bleed to death every night. He's fine. Maybe Moxley has taught him these breathing exercises as well.
Yeah, maybe that's
so Moxley fish hooks him early while Kyle goes for to manipulate the finger. And Danielson is pointing out that these are illegal maneuvers in normal matches. And then we go to something that you tend to see some
are they illegal? We see like
fish hooking.
Yeah. What the fuck is the lockjaw then?
We're talking about in like grappling or
oh, okay.
We're not talking about pro wrestling
so
here.
then what makes so this is one of the issues I had. What makes what is the difference between a no hold barred match and a no DQ match? Are they just the same thing?
For lack of a better term, they're basically the same thing. I mean, you can't get disqualified in a no.
So in a regular grappling match, or we're talking about like Naga, you cannot fish hook. Okay, I accept that. But in wrestling, I mean, isn't every wrestling match a no holds barred match then?
All I want to know is if Judo Gene LaBelle ever needed a fork, if he was in trouble.
That is the difference, I guess. It should be no forks barred. Shouldn't.
Yes.
No utensils barred.
Yeah, a utensils match. Maybe that'll be
utensils fighting championship.
So yes, Marina hands over a fork to Jon Moxley, who begins to stab Kyle, who just bleeds, not to the degree of blood and guts, but it was still quite a lot of blood that the man was depositing here in Newark, New Jersey. Moxley would mount Kyle and stab him in the head, then stab him in the back, and then Excalibur is asked to describe what Jon is doing, and he says he jabbed a fork into the man's nipple. Then Kyle gets a reprieve by hitting a dragon screw onto Moxley, and then he would target the knee and go after it. And he's constantly going for armbar attempts. He gets the fork and stabs Moxley. So now Moxley is bleeding, and they do this close up right as this gusher comes out of his forehead. I mean, this couldn't have been more graphic as they're zoomed in on Moxley, and his vein is like protruding here with blood. Kyle then brings out a chain, and the announcers are quick to call back to this being Moxley's downfall at All in Texas was the chain that Swerve brought. And we see Moxley going to his own ankle lock. Kyle stabs Moxley's hand to break free, and then Moxley hits a curb stomp, which did generate a brief Seth Rollins theme being hummed by the audience, which faded. Then he stomps the chair onto Kyle's arm. So this is our second arm injury of the night. Hits the Death Rider and applies a Kimura, but Kyle holds on to his trunks to prevent the arm from being extended and counters to the ankle lock, stomps the heel, wraps the chain around the foot, and then scissors the ankle. This place went nuts as the ankle lock is applied. And Moxley taps out again, and they went nuts here. 19 minutes and 17 seconds. And after Moxley gets to his feet, he nods his head where you think he's respecting Kyle for catching him. And then as he goes to the floor, he returns attacking Kyle as he's being tended to. The conglomeration runs down. The Death Riders are out. Although Danielson does point out that all the Death Riders were out except for Pac.
The Pac was there afterwards. Brian
he was there afterwards?
Well, Brian thought Pac wasn't there, but Pac didn't end up showing up.
Well, he was there. So Danielson was just working his own.
He's kind of jumping the gun, you know. Like I know that's a story you were trying to tell, but he was kind of a bit more blatant about it. So
well, I'm glad you caught that because I only heard Danielson point out his
because Pac wears black now. Like you still think when I think of Pac, I still think of like Full Gear, you know, Full Gear Pac, but he kind of like just kind of blends in, you know.
He blends in with the crowd. I love this match. I really thought it was tremendous. Like today, sitting down to watch this show, this was the match I was most intrigued by, followed by the tag title match. Like those are the two matches that really stood out to me that I was looking forward to, and this ended up being my match of the show. I just thought it was excellent. Like it was your AEW bloodbath, and I'll have more to say on that later in the show. But I just think like this whole deal with Kyle O'Reilly has been so excellent, and I really thought that this would be Moxley finally getting his win back. So I thought the outcome was a surprise to me, and I really love the incorporation of both making this like a bloodbath, but also all of the submission fighting. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was like a really well thought out match. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff. And this was my favorite match that Danielson called on this show.
It like for Danielson, this is almost his like ideal type of match. It's both technical and also like full of a lot of blood. You know, two things he seems to love it in his professional wrestling. I'm a little surprised that like, you know, like because when you said that the last match wasn't your match of the night, but another match. I could have sworn it would have been one of the other matches. I didn't expect this match.
Tag title was number 3. Number 2 is coming up, but this was number 1 for me by the end of it.
Oh, tag title was number 3. I see.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Well, for me, it's a toss up between that tag team match and also this one as my matches of the night. For me, it's almost 1A and 1B. They're both kind of hard to pick, but I love this match. I love the booking. First of all, Kyle finally cementing his win, getting a singles victory over Jon Moxley. I thought the differences between the no holds barred match and the no DQ match were a little bit ambiguous, but what I will say is that no holds barred suggests more of a sort of submission match, right? Which this was certainly a great example of.
With a fork.
With the fork, yeah. Just a tremendous display, I thought, of what makes Kyle O'Reilly so special on the AEW roster. This whole month with Jon Moxley has just been a tremendous showcase. Dragging Kyle O'Reilly from the depths of the Paragon, dragging him from this like comedy thing he's trying to be in the conglomeration, just putting him on this pedestal that he deserves to be at as just a technical wrestling killer in this company. So they did such a great job. Moxley did such a great job of that. I would have loved like a probably a pure submission match as well, but having a Jon Moxley fork in there just kind of like elevates this to feeling something a bit more engrossing and hard fought. I might have my criticisms of like overuse of blood certainly on this show later on, but in this instance it was the first match to feature blood, and I thought it was great. Do you have something to say about that?
I was just gonna say, and we had 3 bloodbaths on this show, and I can point out any one of the matches I can look at and argue that like it worked. But the totality of it all, like I certainly felt it by the end of the main event where we had 3 bloodbaths, and they were reserved for like 3 of the last 5 matches. Yeah. It was a lot by the end of the show when you added it all up, even though in individuality, you could argue the cage match needed blood, the no DQ match needed blood. Did this one need blood? Maybe not, but it was the first of the 3, and therefore it was the more, to me, effective.
You can certainly argue for each one possibly not needing blood, or right? I feel this one needed the most because I personally felt most invested in the storytelling of this one. I mean, also you just came from like just the incredible visual of blood and guts, and if you're going to introduce a fork into this no holds barred match, I mean, it kind of comes with the territory, but that'll be up for debate maybe later on. It's just like, to me, I appreciate that they didn't go 50-50 booking with any of this stuff. This whole feud has been Kyle O'Reilly getting the better of Jon Moxley. They never shied away from that. So at this point, like Kyle O'Reilly is the Jon Moxley killer. He's the Death Riders killer, and I hope that never changes. So, great story that they managed to tell from beginning to end here.
I agree. Again, it was my match of the show, and close by was this next match, the no DQ match for the TNT Championship with Kyle Fletcher against Mark Briscoe. They aired this video before this match of Mark Briscoe shot with members of his family and his work family, and talking about his family on the road, the conglomeration, and who he calls family is at stake tonight. We might question God's plan, but it's our plan that gets us out of the dark and into the light. And we see shots of his family at home, his children, and how when he's away from his family, he's got the conglomeration. And by the end of this, I was just thinking, my God, this man cannot lose this match, which made me think he was probably going to lose this match. So I just thought this video was excellent that they showed here. And so this was like this was our second bloodbath in a row, mixed with way more weapons than the last match. We had tables, ladders, chairs, steps, barbed wire tables, tacks, everything under the sun was utilized in this match. Both men are cut open in the match. Briscoe first, followed by Kyle later. And we had 6 chairs that had been set up on the floor, and they just lingered there throughout the match. And Briscoe ends up climbing and gets shoved off the top turnbuckle through a table on the floor after Callis distracts him. And Kyle, who's all bloody, goes over and kisses Callis on the cheek. There was so much stuff in this match. Kyle brings out tacks and he ends up taking the tack spot with a fisherman buster, and everyone's losing their mind. And then they do this close-up of Kyle, and he's managed 4 tacks. He somehow fell onto these hundreds of tacks, and he got 4 lodged in his back.
Maybe he got lucky, or maybe were they real tacks?
Well, it was nonetheless. This crowd went wild for the tack spot. Barbed wire table is brought in. There's a blockbuster by Mark Briscoe off the apron onto the set of 6 chairs, and when he came down, it looked like he smashed his head on the back of one of these chairs. And Danielson is so concerned about this guy. He thinks at one point that he took the last ride power bomb, and the announcers freaked out that his head bounced off the mat. And then you see this blockbuster spot where his head definitely hits the seat coming down. A screwdriver gets handed to Kyle, so the fork was taken, so they get the screwdriver, and there's a low blow. He stabs Mark, and then with blood over the tip of this screwdriver, Kyle licks the blood off of the screwdriver.
Gross.
Just what more can you say about communicable diseases? Then we decided
did you catch the portion where like Fletcher was yelling at this dude ringside?
No,
like,
I didn't
see all this.
There was a lot of typing here, so stuff might have been missed.
He starts yelling at this dude ringside, arguing with him about something, and at some point, like Fletcher starts like spat at the guy, or at least in the guy's direction.
Oh,
and I thought I heard Fletcher say something to the effect of like, "Go home if you can't handle it." So I wonder if it was like this dude like complaining about the blood or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, it looked very tense, for a moment there.
Maybe it was the mothers.
Well, this was a man.
Okay, it was a man, so we can confirm
you could
that.
argue
The
for
fathers,
the
maybe
mothers,
fathers are trying to stop this on this paper.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, so I did miss that. So Kyle then stabs the screwdriver up through the turnbuckle, so the point of the screwdriver is coming up through the pad.
It was crazy. Wow.
He's going to impale Mark Briscoe with a brainbuster he's literally just going to drop his head onto this screwdriver that is upward. Guess what? Mark Briscoe avoided death here. Okay. So
someday somebody will take that spot. Right?
Someone watching this is like, you could do it. And so from there, it's Mark that hits a brainbuster. Mark takes a brainbuster onto the mat and kicks out. And then as they fight on the turnbuckle, it's Mark taking Kyle, razor's edge through the barbed wire table, and then hits the J Driller. It's after this razor's edge that the crowd just comes to its peak. And when the J Driller is hit, man, this pop was gigantic. 24 minutes and 50 seconds as Mark Briscoe wins the TNT title. He points to the sky. This match was incredible. Like, I imagine most are going to put this as their match of the show, and it was very close for me. I really love that Moxley Kyle match, but this was number 2 for me. And in terms of just a moment that I think is going to be remembered, it's this title win for Mark Briscoe that I think will be what is most remembered from this pay-per-view, I would think.
I don't doubt that for some. Look, for me, this wasn't my favorite match of the show. Listen, it was a very good, very intense, violent match that certainly lives up to the AEW hardcore standard. I personally wouldn't have structured it right next to another match that also featured so much blood. Like, I thought it kind of took away some of the appeal.
This was basically like an hour of men depositing plasma in the ring.
Just not to mention, we're not that far removed from blood and guts, like, to me, like, there were moments of this match where, like, I was seeing a lot of blood, but it wasn't necessarily emotionally connecting with me. And I think for me, a part of that is because I didn't feel that emotional connection to the match, to the feud overall. Like, it did not, to me, feel like a blood feud by this point. To me, it just felt like another match in their series with an interesting stake on the line of Briscoe possibly having to join the Don Callis family. I'll give you that. I think that video that preceded it did a great job of like really explaining the stakes of why joining the Don Callis family would be terrible for him. But the build up to it made it feel almost
that video though, it does a much more effective job airing on Dynamite last week than it does Like, I'm sure this probably was on the countdown, but I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how many people are watching the countdown, but just that video alone, I think upped the stakes of this so much more than anything that had been done in the last 4 weeks.
Beyond that, just even taking the sentiment of that video and expanding it to the build overall, I think it would have made this feel a lot more serious in tone. Like the way it was built just kind of made it feel like another I wonder what sort of goofy stuff they're going to make Mark Briscoe do if he joins the Don Callis family. So I didn't feel like this feud got to the level of like this sort of bloodbathy type of like result. And so for me, I felt a real numbness to seeing a lot of the blood in this particular match. I mean, seeing it on every AEW pay-per-view, having seen it in Blood and Guts, having seen it in the match that just existed prior. So, I mean, they took a great deal of risk. This is certainly not taken away from any of that. It was spectacular to watch, I think, on its own. But I never felt much more of a deeper emotional connection to it, but beyond the superficial risk involved.
I get all those complaints that this match may have had, and especially following Moxley and O'Reilly, but I thought like there was, like, first of all, like Kyle Fletcher is I just think this guy is phenomenal. And this was like, I thought a great performance from Mark Briscoe. And when the audience was starting to like when Mark Briscoe would get on offense and some of the near falls, like this crowd, they really wanted to see this guy win. And the pop at the end was huge. So I thought this was a pretty big, finish that they ended up doing that. I'll give you, like, I don't think they promoted this hard enough to hit over the head of like Mark can never win the big one, or the ties with the conglomeration, like just a segment on TV of the conglomeration that are worried, can Mark pull this off? We might lose him. I think you could have done a lot more to get to this point, but in the end, like, this audience did take it that way by the end of this and treated this title switch to me like a big deal. The Bucks, Josh Alexander against Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express for $1,410,550.04 Canadian.
How much? 1 point what?
1.4 million Canadian.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yes. So we have
don't worry, I'm not going to the US anytime soon. So.
The Bucks come out. We have a Wheel of Fortune graphic landing on bankrupt for the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
They are poor. That's the story. And the match begins, and Omega is dealing with a knee injury. So that is the target throughout this whole match. And he basically works this match like he can't do any of his stuff effectively. He's barely getting around. He's got to use the rope for his Terminator dive. And they're pointing this out. And even Danielson saying, I think it'd be a good idea for him to tag out. Luchasaurus got several hot tags in this match, choke slamming everyone. Jack Perry, I thought, looked very good here, especially some of his counters. One to the Swanton Powerbomb combo that the Bucks did, turning that into a Rana. Omega comes in, Snapdragons all around, and then Josh Alexander chop blocks Kenny's knee. Then he applies the ankle lock, and the Bucks hit the BTE trigger while he's in the ankle lock. I thought that part was clever, but then we've got Josh scissoring the leg as Omega is just screaming and screaming. I was like, this is like verbatim what we just saw with Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley, like just the exact same setup in this same thing. But Kenny survives.
I definitely felt it on Dynamite where like I believe there were like 3 instances of like ankle locks in like. This is wrestling, like it's Kyle's finisher. It's Josh Alexander's finisher. You can't really do much about that. But then like there's like one other match, I don't even remember it, where like they worked an ankle lock sequence in there as well. That one definitely didn't feel necessary, but maybe you can argue about match structure on this pay-per-view as well for these two.
Jurassic Express and Omega manage their own indie taker onto Nick. And then Josh clotheslines Matt Jackson by mistake, and Perry hits a Rana, sending Nick off the apron. They hit the countdown to extinction on Nick, but Josh is in to make the save. There's a double doomsday device, but the Bucks, who take the move, land on their feet, and Kenny's on the floor, takes out Alexander with a one-winged angel, and Perry in the ring goes for a backslide, but Nick rolls through with Matt, hit the BTE trigger, and pin Jack Perry in 19 minutes and 7 seconds, making the Don Callis family $1 million richer. They get into the ring. The Bucks, so they have three.
Well, really 333,000.
Yes, it's split three ways in three duffel bags. So the poor guy who had to separate these bills down to the third. Everyone gets their duffel bag. The Bucks are leaving with Don Callis up the ramp as Kenny gets attacked by the remaining members in the ring. And then the Bucks turn around and they're asking Callis, what's happening? And the crowd are chanting, you sold out. And they're explaining that they need the money. They need the money. And so finally they throw down the cash, run back to save Kenny, and they fight off the Don Callis family. Jurassic Express shake hands with the Bucks, and then they turn to Kenny, and they offer their hand to Kenny. And Kenny slaps the hands away of Matt and Nick, and instead they go in for a hug, and they are reunited. But they explain that by doing this, they have given up their money. I didn't quite understand how this worked. How did they lose their money by performing this save after the match? Because Don leaves with the money and explains after in this promo that they are now $1 million richer. And the announcers are explaining they had to choose between the money or Kenny. I was like, I'm pretty sure they could have taken both if they had a proper lawyer.
Well, yeah, maybe they can go to just a contract lawyer to have a look over this, because I'm sure they're at least owed something.
I think that the Young Bucks and Andrade should all pool together their resources, and I think all of them have winnable cases. Right. So they just to complete this, they go up the ramp and then they point the Bucks and they leave through the babyface tunnel. And so they lost, but they really won. It was Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7, losing his career, but leaving with Elizabeth.
Like, was it clear to you that they had to stick with the Don Callis family to keep the money?
No. This post match, they were really trying to make this dramatic choice that when it came down to it, the Bucks chose friendship over money. But this was really not laid out well, nor did it quite make sense to me. I was like, how are they giving up their money by?
So, okay, I could buy that Don Callis negotiated for this match, and in the clause it says, the Bucks would get this money only if they stuck with the Don Callis family. You could buy that in wrestling legalese.
Can you not? Can
of course you can. Yeah, I can buy anything.
So I can only take this prize money.
This money is between. Okay, this match is signed on behalf of the Don Callis' family versus. We don't have to go through this. They can explain any bullshit. Anyway, whatever. The Elite are back together again. First of all, the match. I thought it was very good action. Maybe not of the top standard of these guys, but certainly of the.
I thought this was a really, really good Dynamite main event. Maybe even a little above it. It was not one of my top matches of the pay-per-view, but I thought it was. It was a very good match, but this was not show stealer for me.
It's kind of where I was at too. But I thought this was the part of the show where these reactions from this crowd were not nearly as what you would expect for this quality of action. And let me just add that we talked about Dynamite. I think it was Dynamite. Not sounding as loud for some of those tag team matches. Then I got some people saying, hey, on my speaker, I turned on this sort of true audio feature, and it sounded really loud. And I mean, so let me just add that this could have sounded really loud to you. Could have sounded really loud to you in person.
Wait, there were plenty of points on this show when the crowd sounded super loud on this show. It's not like this was consistently.
Yes,
there was definitely these last two matches, they were a chore for some of this.
I just know I will have some.
I don't
because
care.
There's no one true speaker for everybody, right? Okay,
but I'm the arbiter of this. I decide all of it actually.
You sure? But for me, I grade every single one of these matches on the same set of speakers, and so if to my ears, where I can say this match sounded really loud and this match didn't sound really loud, I'm making the same comparison point.
Let's do separate reviews listening on different speakers. This will be our big data plus panel.
Beyond that, I felt it. You felt it. I looked it up online. We were not the only people who felt this way. So at some point, this crowd dipped, and it started with this match. So that did affect things a little bit there as well. And then we got this Elite reunion, which, listen, we all knew it was coming, but we've just seen it so much now, this sort of cycle of them breaking up, getting back together, that I feel like this particular one kind of lost its luster. Didn't really have, again, that emotional weight to me.
I think that all three of these guys have I think it without the injury, I think we're in the midst of a Golden Lovers Young Bucks program. I think that was probably what they had set for this whole last couple of months of the year. I think it gets Kenny into a tag scenario, which is probably for the best at this point for Kenny. I think he's only going to be doing singles matches very selectively, and the Bucks kind of had to just toil around with the broke gimmick and doing this Don Callis family deal. And now perhaps we're getting like a trios unit with these three. The Ibushi thing, like that's just like, who knows if like that's not even something you can look at as any kind of timetable for it. So it gets them into babyface positions with the three of them, and maybe you just put them into trios matches and you'll get that direction with them.
You're certainly still getting something with Josh Alexander, who I think like has
Yes.
really benefited from all of this. Like he's taken a big step up playing this like sadist type of arm leg breaking characters, and it looks at least we're continuing with that.
All right, second from the top is Mercedes Moné and Kris Statlander for the women's championship. And I'll just say it, like I thought this match, like they had a story, but unfortunately it was a story we had seen several times on this show where the babyface had to overcome an arm injury, and Kris Statlander basically worked the match with one arm, and that was Mercedes targeting the arm. And I felt like this was, it was enough of a story in the Mystical match. It was really a story in the Kyle match, and then in this match, it was a major focus of the match. So Moné is attacking this.
They gave Statlander this like crash landing rocket ship entrance.
Yes, it was, which I guess, she arrived to Earth.
Amazing.
Yes, we got it.
I thought it was kind of cool. I, again, didn't get that much response from it, but maybe this was just, I like the fact that they're continuing to put some effort and money into her presentation.
Well, Mercedes got like the Chippendales dancers,
I think
who looked like there was not a drug test to be passed by these 13 men who are holding up the belts.
Do they test for belt holders in New Jersey?
I think they escape. I don't think Nick Lembo is running around with asking for urine samples here. So La Mystica is early. Mercedes uses a La Mystica setup for the statement maker early on, and then Kris catches her off a dive and climbs up the stairs with her on the back, misses the 450, and she rolls to the ground holding her forearm. And Aubrey is checking on her. Mercedes comes off the apron with a Meteora, and Aubrey loses it. She's like, I told you to give her a minute. It's like, it's a match. Either it's over or it's not. She didn't do anything wrong here. What, just a timeout? There's no timeouts. She needs a timeout. She loses by TKO.
There might be a bit of bias there.
Well, then we got one of the biggest babyface spots of the whole night. It is Mercedes. Forget the 3 amigos. We got the 14 amigos, one for every title plus the one she's about to win. I thought this was a great spot. Unfortunately, everyone in Newark also thought it was an amazing spot. They're all cheering her for this amazing feat of strength. They're chanting CEO. I'm like, this is a great spot. I don't know if it quite worked for the story we were telling, but a cool spot on its own.
It was very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and people were giving her like legitimate respect. I mean, I imagine
it looked really goddamn impressive just to do this.
It takes incredible cardio. I mean, for both her and I'm sure Statlander.
Kris manages a blue thunderbomb on the floor. Mercedes continues after the arm. She catches her. Kris catches her in the statement maker, and then it's Mercedes bending the wrist to escape, applies the hold herself, and again, Statlander powers to her feet. Really cool spot. Kris Statlander does the Dean Malenko style gutbuster off the turnbuckle, which was always a spot I love seeing, so I was glad to see Statlander incorporate this. She tries the Saturday Night Fever, but can't lift her due to the arm. So then Moné goes for the seatbelt, which Kris then counters using it her own way, which they point out is how she won the belt. Hits a package pile driver, and Mercedes grabs onto the rope. There's a poison rana by Mercedes, double knees, and still Statlander kicks out. Moné cannot believe it. So she tries for the moneymaker. The Saturday Night Fever gets blocked, and Moné comes out of the corner and into Saturday Night Fever as Statlander wins the match with one arm in 23 minutes and 8 seconds. And I think in maybe a different setting, this hits in a bigger way. I didn't really have too many complaints about like the story they told or the wrestling itself, But I thought this was like a really tired crowd, and I didn't think this match got to like the next level that this was going to be, this like classic that I think they might have envisioned it becoming.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, all of these matches remaining on the show had to really contend with a tired crowd, and like we'll talk more about this probably later. But Tony Khan loves to deliver value to his paying customers, and thus these shows going that long. But I mean, it's evident now in several instances, not every instance, but several instances, particularly on the East Coast, when these shows start at 7 and go all the way to 1 a.m. for people that probably woke up early in the morning, like most of us, where it really hurts the crowd going this long. So I don't know if he'll ever address it. But I do think some change needs to happen. Anyway, back to the match. They had to contend and battle with a pretty tired crowd. But I will say, for my own personal engagement, the fact that this was more of a technical battle, like, I don't feel came across as awkward as like maybe like a, multi-person, like fast-paced match where you're expecting a lot more noise. To me, like, I was still very captivated by like a lot of the technical details from these two, and I thought these two delivered a really beautiful technical wrestling match. For me, it was a great showcase of Mercedes, almost like signature sort of like chaining style, which I think gets very underrated recognition from her. Her arm work I thought was great, and I thought like it's these incredible closing sequences and counters to finishers that I always love about her matches. Statlander too, I thought showed a very different side of her, wrestling a different style of match from her usual, and being able to follow Moné on every beat. One detail I loved was when she couldn't pick up Moné for that Saturday Night Fever, so she gets onto the ground and rolls into the entry instead, which I thought was really, really well done. So a beautiful technical wrestling match. In some ways, I think even more technical than the O'Reilly-Moxley match. So again, overall experience was definitely hampered due to lack of engagement, but as for me, just more of a technical wrestling match where I can just focus on the actual wrestling itself. I personally found the work like very strong.
Backstage, Lexi Nair is with Don Callis, Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, and Hechicero. They are reveling in their $1 million that they have acquired. And Callis states that when Okada and Takeshita get on the same page, they're going to be the best team in AEW history. But Okada and Takeshita both blame the other for losing the trios match earlier. Okada, it is announced, will have to defend his Continental Championship, so therefore he is in the Continental Classic. And then Takeshita reveals he too will be in the Continental Classic. And after that, Kyle Fletcher walks in and thinks that he has been used by both of these guys who are trying to win over Kyle, and then they weren't there to help me in my match. I lost my title, but I too am entering the Continental Classic. So it is 3 Don Callis family members, at least at present, and the only 3 members that we are aware of in the field so far.
Exciting. I mean, just that alone suggests that this will be a really, really incredible tournament, I feel. And I think Fletcher it has to be a leading contender. Like, you take the belt off of him, well, probably for better things, right? Well, if you consider the Continental Championship a better thing. Sorry, what is it? Undisputed? What do they call it? Unified?
Well, he's the unified champion, but they specified in this match it's the Continental Championship that he is defending in this tournament.
What?
I mean, that is what it was said here.
So the unified championship could be broken up? Like,
it might be ununified for this tournament.
So this belt might not exist, and he might go back to being 2 separate champions?
Unless it was Don Callis very clearly stated he would defend the Continental Championship. So, like, this is one belt. I don't think that it's like you've mixed all the ingredients together. You can't really unbake the cake after its own merged thing. So I don't know. It'll be explained somehow. You're going to get a bunch of great wrestling matches over the next month, and someone gets a trinket at the end of it. Maybe they'll just create a brand new belt. Huh?
We should expect brackets when?
Hopefully before Wednesday. That would be nice.
Yeah. We'll see who's escaped this pay-per-view injury free.
Well, that's
a big question coming off the
apparently
show.
These 3. Yeah. They got cleared before the end of the night. And then we go to our main event of Hangman Page, Samoa Joe in a steel cage for the AEW Championship. So of the final 7 matches on the show, this was the shortest of your final 7 matches on this show. So Page is all taped up, wearing the effects of his matches with Powerhouse Hobbs and Katsuyori Shibata. And it turns out Shibata did not go to see a dick surgeon.
No. That's for
unless he was in recovery here. Can't confirm.
Well, it's for after the pay-per-view, maybe.
Maybe he was wearing a cast. So Hobbs and Shibata are nowhere to be found. Joe gets run into the cage, and this might have set the record for blood in how fast a man could have, like, the Muda mask. And he had this gash on his forehead, and this dude was covered. I mean, this was probably our bloodiest individual of the night, and there were several candidates, but I think this one took the cake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It bled
Look at
over
this
the
man.
cake. Yeah.
So Paige takes off his boot. He uses that
by the way, before people, Paige came out to a theme from the video game Red Dead Redemption.
Oh,
You hear the music change.
okay.
There are a lot of people who view this stuff as very important.
I appreciate it. I appreciate this. So this avoids can't believe you didn't mention blank. So that's what Way is here for. This is where we learn about the breathing work that Kyle O'Reilly does. And he doesn't think that Joe does that same breath work. So make sure you're doing your breathing if you want to, bleed
if you plan
profusely.
on working in AEW, make sure you breathe. Yes.
Of course, Paige is busted open, and he rams Joe into the fence. Paige uses the coquina clutch. Joe breaks out of that. Tony Schiavone, this was the funniest conversation on the broadcast. Schiavone says, "This might be one of the most violent nights in AEW history." And Excalibur's like, "Yeah, we're just coming off of blood and guts." I'm like, yes, exactly. There is something to be said for that your automatic reaction was just to say, yeah, we kind of just did this 10 nights ago. So Shibata shows up. He grabs the championship belt and he goes to climb the cage when he is stopped by Eddie Kingston, who fights Shibata to the back. But in doing so, Joe then takes out referee Paul Turner. Paige hits the dead eye, and of course, no referee. So Hobbs appears, rips the lock off the door and enters. Paige kicks him in the balls, sending him to the dick surgeon, and the coquina clutch gets applied onto Hangman, and he runs Joe into this exposed turnbuckle to escape, hits the buckshot lariat. I was thinking, man, what a cool finish if this is it, but still no referee. And then Hook runs down, and he gets into the cage. He checks on Paul Turner, and he takes the belt. I was like, oh my God, we're doing this. And he looks into the camera and then nails Hangman with it. And Excalibur calls Taz a bitch. And
He called Taz a bitch?
He yelled, "You son of a bitch."
Oh, yes.
And
okay.
then Hook reveals an Ops shirt underneath. Always check how many layers your best friend is wearing, okay? You always double check, okay? That they don't have another hidden t-shirt. And with that, Joe hits the Muscle Buster onto the championship belt, and he pins Hangman in 14 minutes and 22 seconds. Joe regains the AEW title, a two-time champion. The Ops celebrate, pyro display, and we get the Ops Dojo coming out, the saddest group of students you have ever seen flanking this group. All I want are vignettes of Shibata running this dojo and just bossing them around, making his food, and maybe we'll get a future Clark Connors out of this group.
How good is the Chonkla at the Ops Dojo?
Oh, man.
Sorry, Chonko. Chonkla is something else.
Yeah.
Brandon from
Well,
New
maybe
Jersey.
both of those. They get beaten with one and get to be nourished by the other. But yes, they now have an entire school backing them. They are fully Team Taz now.
What is tuition at the Ops Dojo?
I don't know. Where's Chris Chetty? Is Chris Chetty going to be backing Samoa Joe maybe as his counsel? The lights go out and we see the image of a burning house, and then it is Prince Nana standing at the top of the entrance. Swerve Strickland makes his return, brand new theme, and Joe steps aside, allowing Swerve to see Hangman Page, who we have forgotten about. We thought Shelton and Bobby were down for a long time. Poor Hangman Page had to lay down here forever. This was...
Poor Hangman Page, poor Samoa Joe. He's still bleeding buckets, okay? While Swerve
This is the cost of being a champion, Way. You've got to...
Swerve is coming out. It's like a slow entrance, the slowest. Like we're
This
talking
was like 6 minutes of him from music to entrance to getting into the ring. It was a long arrival.
like
for
slow
Swerve.
is slow, like Undertaker slow is what I'm talking about. That's what Swerve is doing here. Meanwhile, Joe is just looking like he's wishing he did some breath work, with Bryan Danielson. He's just
There's
like,
a lesson
breathing
there.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like, can you walk a bit faster, buddy?
Swerve looks like he's packed on some size in his time off here. He was looking pretty swole here, and Joe steps aside, revealing Hangman, who is still down, and Swerve single-handedly takes down the entire Ops dojo. These geeks just got beaten to hell. He snapped one dude's arm, house call to another, and the closing scene is Hangman Page coming back to life, standing alongside Swerve as they eye the Ops. And that is how the show ended, with the return of Swerve Strickland. But Wai, your thoughts on the match and your post-match angle. Good thing that Swerve, what was he going to do if Hangman retained this? Like, would he have just done all of this to confront his new best friend, or was this going to be just the option B in case there's a title change?
Well, I guess my question is, like, where was Swerve during the fucking match when all these people came in to fucking interfere with?
Well,
with
look how
Paige?
slow he's moving around. He probably got out of his car and was trying to get to the entrance, and it took him like 20 minutes.
He's walking from the locker room all the way to the ramp, and by that point, he had already missed.
Hey,
the
Hook,
match.
what's that shirt you just put on?
Okay, I gotta say, like, don't know how anybody else feels about it. Like, listen, they did a big title change, which I think it will be well received for people. But man, I thought the match was disappointing. Like, first you had, okay, is Paige in another tough spot again, having to pick up another tough crowd by the end of this 5-hour show, and I don't think in this case he managed to overcome it. Like, and action wise,
And that's the job. You're AEW champion. These are the shows you have to close, which are insane. It's a tough job, but that's the job. You've got to be able to come out when the audience has sat through hours. They've seen everything under the sun, and typically, like Hangman, like I thought the match was fine, but I thought overall, for me, the show peaked with the TNT title match. I thought the trios match was fine that followed it, but that was, it was good. And I thought these final two matches, I thought they really struggled heat wise.
yeah, like I thought action wise, even I don't know if there was a lot about this particular match that made it feel novel outside of the introduction of blood, which was not at all novel on this particular show. Like, I already felt pretty numb to it in the Briscoe Fletcher match. To just kind of see it from both men here, to me, just again did not make it feel special in the least. And then you have a very underwhelming finish, in my opinion. Like, you had your Ops run-ins, you had your visionary pins, which I think
Turn.
For the standard of like Paige and Joe, I just think are such generic cliches anyway. But then you get the turn from Hook, which nobody gives a shit about, because who has been, like, Hook has not been a significant character in months. Whether or not he was with the Ops is not a question anybody has been curious about. It also reeks of just a lot of flip-flopping, and this big moment that they built to, they did it in like the most cliche way possible, including like coming out teasing whether or not he's going to attack somebody with the belt, and then hitting the belt and then taking the shirt off. Like, we're talking 95 NWO stuff, which again, Hook is not a major enough character to even like pull off. Even if it was, again, it just feels so cliche that it kind of turned me off, because I have high expectations for an AEW main event. And I also, like, what would Hook have done if he actually woke up Paul Turner? Like, what if Paul Turner actually woke up? Would Hook have actually cheated? He would have found another way to cheat, I'm sure. But as an AEW pay-per-view main event, like, I thought actually this was one of the more underwhelming ones in some time.
I didn't think it was, it didn't follow the previous ones. Like, I thought the back-to-back of Moxley Kyle and then the TNT title match, like, I thought those were like the strongest matches of the show for me. I'm actually curious, what was your match of the show? I don't think you've shared what.
I said it was between Moxley and Kyle, and the tag team match, FTR and Brodido.
Okay, gotcha.
Kind of a toss-up between the two.
Yeah. I put that as number 3. Yeah, I thought the high points of this show were, the no holds barred match, the TNT title match, and the tag title match. I thought those 3 were all really, really high end matches on this show. They really made the show for me personally. The final 2, like, it was tough to, like, the heat was not there. I think also a cage match, It's really tough when you're confining people to this cage match and you've seen so much on this show, and like the magic of a cage match is being able to work within that confined structure. And the only way to introduce outside elements, sometimes that's a turnoff for people in cage matches. And they went that direction here. We did all the requisite like heel turn shtick with Hook. Like it makes storyline sense, but I don't think anyone's holding their breath for a Hangman Page Hook feud coming out of this. And it's kind of the idea of Swerve and Hangman attached together, and obviously like Swerve now wanting to go for the belt with Joe, and Hangman in the midst here wanting to go for revenge.
I imagine Eddie gets tied into all of this as well, joining the babyface side.
That makes sense.
So hopefully that's an elevation for him. But yeah, for me, like I'm okay with run-ins as long as it's done creatively, and my expectations for creativity are that much higher for the main event. I thought Blood and Guts managed to achieve that in both of the matches. We had run-ins for both of them, and I thought they did run-ins really well. This particular match, I was very disappointed by, because I thought the creativity would be a lot better. And Hook, I think they should have done a lot better setup for Hook, in my opinion. He's just been no sort of factor, like to the point where this would
Taz reacting on commentary would have been priceless. That would have made this turn. Does he lose the music with this turn?
No, he might not keep it.
Maybe he keeps it. Now it's a heel theme. Okay.
But overall, again, like I will continue to say it. I understand Tony wanting to give like paying customers value for a long show. You got to start these shows earlier, because it's not even so much about whether or not somebody at home gets the value. It's about how well your on-screen product presents itself, how great your main events, your top 3 matches really suffered here because of a tired crowd. So I would just like go ahead and start these shows earlier. You don't lose anything, clearly.
You like the afternoon idea?
If you're going to go this long, if you're going to go 5 hours, I would say so. On the East Coast, at least,
Yeah, it's certainly something to be said. Like if it's one thing when your pay-per-view audience is on the East Coast and you have to like be watching these late. But if your live audience, it's a West Coast show, like you don't really have that factor where you're pushing past midnight for some of these shows. But this was one where I think it's impossible to watch those last 2 matches and not feel like this crowd, like they had gotten their fill, and they had seen a lot of wrestling on this show. And there's some shows.
Blood. And a lot of blood too. Match structure and like the decision of what matches to feature blood, I think, is also something you need to consider.
Well, there you go. Any other final thoughts just on the show before we go to feedback?
I felt overall, maybe due to my taste in the main event, and also due to like I think what are some issues of like overusage of blood on the show, I thought this was one of the lesser AEW pay-per-views of the year. And that's saying something, like that's not that big of a slight, because AEW shows are usually like A to A+. This is more of a B to B+ show to me.
I think that's fair. I think that's certainly fair to say. Like I certainly feel you would have gotten a lot of value out of this show, but this was not a show without flaws, for sure. All right.
We got some super chats here, and we want to thank everybody who's watching us live at youtube.com/postwrestling. Hopefully my voice is holding up. It is starting to go a little bit, but we will soldier on as best as we can here for some of your feedback, including you super chatters. Thank you very much, Jake from the Windy City, who sends $5 to say, I think the baseline for AEW pay-per-views is 8, and that's where I have this. A rock-solid show. I didn't expect Hangman to lose. What a way to do it.
What a way to do it. I can't read the tone of that sentence.
Did you expect the title change, or what do you think of the title change?
I wasn't crazy about it. I understand what they're doing. Like you have 2 really top baby faces now chasing the heel unit, and this really kind of for the first time puts the Ops in the main heel group role ahead of the Death Riders, I would say. Like this really does place them into the focus spot, and the Death Riders are kind of off to whatever their direction is going to be. Like how many of them are tied up in the Continental Classic? Like are Hangman and Swerve in the Continental Classic? Like I think it kind of takes down the tournament if you don't have 2 of your big stars in it. But it's not always the case where they fill out the field with every top star. It's not always like, it's not put together like the G1 where it's everybody in this. But I'm curious to see what the field is, because that'll dictate several directions.
Do you think Page accomplished all he should on this run? Or do you think it continues?
I definitely thought there was more juice in this title run for Page. I did not feel it was, he held the belt for 4 months. I think they certainly could have gone longer. But, sometimes you want to have your baby faces in a chase chasing position. I'm not like against that. I think Joe will be a very effective champion. But I certainly think if you wanted to, the problem that we continued to run into was they had really not built up a whole lot of heels for this guy. Like you had to do 2 pay-per-views with Joe. You do have MJF in the background, which kind of makes that weird to come back now with Joe as champion. But like, what were you going to do? Like a third show with Joe, or like it would be the same thing where you're going to just take a heel out of the mid card and fast track him to a main event. Like they had not really built up too many heel contenders, and they certainly do have a lot of babyface options, conversely.
I like that it cements this new Samoa Joe, like in his status as like a top guy, because I think there's a lot more life in the heel Joe rather than just having him fail again against Paige. So I do ultimately hope Paige wins it back before like All In, because I think he should still be like your default ace. But curious to see where
Swerve could win it, and that does set up a rematch between those two, which is something you could hold off until as far as All In next year. Like they should do another Hangman Swerve match, but it should be a really, really big deal when they can finally get there. And it should be like they should be aligned, but ultimately it's Brenda and it's Brandon and Dylan, and Kelly Taylor is the championship.
This Tuesday, everybody, in the Post Wrestling Cafe, John Pollock, Brandon, New Jersey, Beverly Hills.
90210 season 4. I know all the followers were watching with bated breath if Jack Perry won that $1 million, and if Suzanne and Kevin would try to get their hands on that $1 million.
Okay. I'm completely lost, but let's go up next to not $1 million, but $5 super chat here from Ishmael, who says, Adam Page losing and Swerve changing his theme just felt like huge missteps as a viewer.
Changing Hangman's theme.
No, Swerve changing his theme.
I really liked Swerve's new theme tonight.
Maybe Page losing his theme. Well, that I took that to be a one night only thing.
That's what I thought too. Yeah. With Swerve, that feels like it's a permanent change. I like the new theme that he used tonight. I know the other one is the iconic one for him, but I really dug the tune that he came out to tonight. I think it worked for him, so I didn't really have any issues with it.
I've only heard it once. We'll see how it grows on me.
It's no Rebel Heart, which is now back on the wrestling playlist in WWE. All right, shall we head to the forum, Way?
Yeah, let's go to forum.postwrestling.com, where all of our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons can leave feedback.
Can we all give a round of applause to Wai Ting, whose voice is held up perfectly? It's wonderful to hear the tone back in your voice.
You know, I've been just like eating halls, like, you know, this has been my food for like the past 2 days, so I've been trying my best.
Very nice. We had a children's birthday party today, so who knows how many diseases I contracted today from various kids. Just
the common cold is like really the worst thing for a wrestling podcaster.
It's our kryptonite. All right, we start off with Dave. Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher was my match of the night. Hook turning heel and rejoining the Ops was a nice twist and set up for a nice post-match return for Swerve, who I'm sure most people assumed would do a run-in at the end of the match. Loved Hangman coming out to the American Venom track from Red Dead Redemption 2, as that's one of my favorite games of all time. Do you think AEW is overdoing the Moxley fork spots? I liked it at All In and even at Forbidden Door, and while it is gross and adds to the match, I feel like it's losing its luster because they do the same fork spot in all of his hardcore matches. No, it's Moxley the Butcher. He is taking the Abdullah. Like, I mean, It's his weapon. I don't think it has to be in every match. I thought it was fine.
Are they overdoing it? That is a great question for a lot of things involving Jon Moxley.
Well, there's other utensils too. He can move over to knives. Spoons underrated. Okay.
You try to make somebody bleed with a spoon. I'd love to see that. That'd be fun. That's to somebody's personal taste. I mean, I could already see an argument for being yes. I certainly think there's an existing argument about whether or not they're doing too many blood spots. I thought there was on tonight. To some people, it wasn't enough, maybe. So it's up to the viewer subjectively. For me, no. Like, I think the fork has still been saved enough that it doesn't feel overexposed yet. Not just yet. Let's go to well, would you care to read these, John? Because you're much better at reading these today.
Wolfman writes, it has to be inevitable that AEW strikes out on pay-per-view at some point, but man, tonight was not it. This year's pay-per-view run has been incredible. Whether the stakes be a championship, literal bags of cash, or family allegiance, we got a lineup of great matches filled with meaning, purpose, and so many title changes. Ricochet was wonderful as the Gauntlet Weasel, and O'Reilly submitting Moxley was a work of art. Isn't it funny how straight-up wrestling match feels like a rare stipulation when Darby is involved? Between forks and screwdrivers, I think the name of this pay-per-view should be changed to AEW Face Stabbing. I agree. I think that should be the name of this pay-per-view. Presented
Face
by
stabbing.
DC. Face Stabbing.
Mom, can I buy face stabbing tonight?
Yes. Jesse has sent his usual one-sentence multi-line feedback here. Essentially, he was watching the AAA show, and they streamed that on the WWE YouTube channel tonight. And the big news is that for the December 20th show next month for AAA, they are putting Phoenix and Penta together against Dominic Mysterio and El Grande Americano on that show. So that will be that's like. It's like a 20,000 seat venue that they're running. And that was one of the dates people were looking at. Like, would they do something as big as Ray and Dominic on that show? But it appears to be Lucha Brothers against Dom and El Grande. So
what's the date? Sorry, what was that date?
December 20th.
So it just makes me wonder if they'll translate that team to TV finally.
It's possible, but they're on two separate brands.
Opposite sides. How can they ever do it? I don't know.
Brian from New Jersey, an especially violent pay-per-view following Blood and Guts, and a very good one. The heavy plunder of Fletcher and Briscoe felt like overkill following Blood and Guts, but I still thought it was well done, and Briscoe goes from being a wrestler banned from AEW television to the champion of television. Yeah, that is like an interesting part of that whole thing. The title that he is winning is the TNT belt. True. O'Reilly and Moxley was my match of the night. Tremendous submission match with a violent edge. I also enjoyed Brodido against FTR. I can't think of a casino gauntlet I didn't like, and tonight's had some fun stories within and an entertaining run by Ricochet. Happy to see Statlander retain in another good match. Surprised to see Joe win the title for a second time with heel Hook, but having a heel champion for the returning Swerve and other faces makes sense for the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Nick,
who are those opponents? Swerve, Page again, obviously. Eddie potentially could challenge.
maybe. I guess there is a interesting question of like how you reintroduce MJF. Like, I'm kind of like confused of like how he comes back, because that had kind of been built up. Like, he would have this outstanding match that he could cash in on Hangman.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget Kyle O'Reilly, who I think could be at that level.
If Kyle O'Reilly is not in the Continental Classic, which I think he should be, and I think he's like a really interesting addition to that. Yep. Like, you could absolutely, like, coming out of this show, like, logically, if you're looking at this from like a quote unquote ranking standpoint, this guy should be in line for a big title match coming out of this feud with Jon Moxley. Like, that's how you get these feuds over and make wins feel important, is that the win over this guy leads to something bigger. And Kyle O'Reilly should get something big coming out of this, or else it's like you squander this over time if he just sets back to his regular role in the middle after this big feud.
100%. Please don't waste like all this effort, without seeing it through into at least a title challenge.
Nicholas, I thought this was surprisingly one of AEW's better pay-per-views. A lot of great matches from guys and girls who are at the top of their game. Last year, the Death Riders were such an albatross on AEW, but I'm glad they stuck with it because the key players of the faction have such an aura now. I know Mercedes models herself out after Eddie Guerrero, but she's totally Bret Hart to me. She gets the best of everyone she's in there with. She's so creative in the ring, and despite often being sandwiched between bloodbaths in hour 4 or 5 of the night, she always gets the crowd into her matches without any gimmicks. I don't know how much she got. Like, there were moments in that match that the crowd came into things, but I did think it was a struggle for some parts of their match, which I did like the match on its own, but that's a component of it that I think you do have to call out.
Hey, let me just give an update, because somebody in the chat room is saying so. Tony Khan said Kyle O'Reilly won't be in the Continental Classic because he's not medically cleared.
Okay, well, there you go.
Take that for what it's worth.
Okay. Muggin writes, the one time I turn off an AEW pay-per-view, Hangman loses the title. Swerve coming back was great timing. The Continental Classic became must-watch with Takeshita and Fletcher entering it. The Callis family is going to be a house divided. It better end with Takeshita beating Okada at World's End. I was thrilled that Kris Statlander beat Mercedes Moné in a very good match that had to work to get the crowd into it. Her downfall should be imminent. Briscoe, O'Reilly, and Ricochet all left tonight in better positions than they were going in. I bet the Death Riders are going to shed some dead weight soon enough. Very ominous always from Muggin.
Or maybe not. Maybe they'll just like they'll be like, he lost. Oh well.
Bruce Lord. I watched Full Gear with two friends who haven't really watched wrestling since the dying days of WCW in the late 2000s and late 2000s TNA respectively, and they were both pleasantly surprised by both the intensity of the work and just how many wrestlers they recognized. It's a coin flip between Kyle Mox and Briscoe Fletcher for my match of the night, though my friends and I agreed that one of those very bloody matches could have been placed between the 6-man and women's title match for the sake of variety. This definitely sits in the better half of AEW pay-per-views, and in addition to the now expected match quality, the booking worked for me between Fletcher presumably losing up the world title eluding Moné and Vancouver's boy O'Reilly aiding Moxley's death spiral. My sole complaint isn't so much Hangman losing as it is the cage match stipulation being used to undercut the basic premise that the stip is predicated upon, keeping seconds out. Still, it's hard to argue with the visual of Joe, the remorseless killer, baptized in red and gold. I mean, I think he needed a transfusion by the end of this. I think that was his immediate opponent after this pay-per-view.
When do you think wrestling will be able to solve the issue of people breaking into these cages almost every single time?
They really need to reinforce these. Electrified fences is the only way to go.
Must be.
Yeah. And finally, Benjamin, the tag titles and Pac Darby were my matches of the night, but I do think this was a below average show. That Casino Gauntlet match was terrible. No surprises at all in just a weirdly paced match. And why the hell was it booked to have Ricochet lose the match to be entrant number 1 and then be the third guy in? Just stupid. The Bucks match and Moxley Kyle were both very disappointing because the crowd did not care. In general, this crowd was mostly dead. I can't say that about Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, the trios match, I thought it had more than the last two matches had, but there was, to me, it peaked with the TNT
Benjamin, did you have your true audio setting turned on your speakers?
Yeah, what level were you listening in, okay? Well, what's your subwoofer situation like, okay? Because over here, it sounded within decibel range of the top 30% of AEW pay-per-views. All right, everyone. It's holy shit. It's 2:20 in the morning. Good Lord. I'm
gonna have to take another 5 days off.
These AEW pay-per-views, they do take a certain level of conditioning. So luckily I did my breathing exercises this morning, so I will be just fine. Let's all hope for Wai Ting. He sounds good, but let's not overextend him, okay? Let's understand that less is more sometimes, and we will get Wai Ting at full strength on Monday night following Raw.
I got to get on a Roman Reigns schedule, I think.
Well, we missed you on Friday, but glad to have you back tonight.
Thank you, John. One last time. chop-seas.com/postwrestling for pretty much your last chance at getting some merch. And of course, thank you to our friends and sponsors at nordvpn.com/postwrestling who certainly helped me watch tonight's show.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So a big thank you to all of those that make Post Wrestling go round. We're back Monday night following Raw, and that concludes our review of AEW Full Gear.